when you do the story because Josh didn't come on time, right? Use my sound bite. How you doing? That's all right. That's okay. We're waiting for Josh. You don't think that's gonna fly off?
No.
Probably not. How's everybody doing? Okay. I mean, this is we're almost in April. That's why I don't know if you heard what I said to that group, but I said that I think the Staten Island groundhog is politically compromised because for the last few years he's been saying early spring and it's always late winter, and I think that like no politician wants to hold the groundhog and say it's going to be 6 more weeks of winter. So I think he's been politically compromised. I know. Come on, Josh. It's getting real cold real fast, Tony. Oh, great. All right, it's coming.
It's up 2 months ago. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And Jay Parker.
That's not good. This is showing my head. I had one that ate pictures. Like I had a really nice picture of me and my husband. Where do you get your I had a couple grand bucks and I had some couple good pictures. Because that's what I want. This one, Dale Pro
There he is.
No.
Oh, look, he doesn't even have a coat. Let's make him stand out here.
No.
I don't know. He never wears a coat. I don't get it.
Really?
Yeah, I don't. Should we try to use the usual or no?
Well, where is it? I can hold it up. Maybe I'll just hold it up.
All right.
Hey.
Good to see you. What's up?
Everybody's mad at you.
Sorry, I had to come from Jersey. Everyone's mad at me. Thanks, Nicole. Way to cover for me. It's cool out.
Cool. That's one way of saying it. Here's my thing. I'm just going to hold it up because I don't think it's going to fly all over anyway.
I'll help you.
We made a nice visual.
We'll
and
hold it up together. I'll hold one side.
All right, well, maybe we'll just do the quick
Ready?
photo thing
Yeah,
here.
you want to do it when you're speaking or right now?
Well, let's just show. I just want everyone to be able to get a shot of this, because as was mentioned in our release, we started a anti-congestion caucus in Congress, and these are going to be the goals of our caucus. So we'll lift it up a little higher, and just so you guys can get a shot of that. Unfortunately, we had it on an easel, and it doesn't look like it's going to stay on the easel.
You have
so.
me as your easel, Nicole.
Yeah.
Turn this way, please.
There you go.
Thanks.
All right, so everybody got the shot.
You guys got it?
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Maybe you'll hold it. All right. Maybe Tony could just hold it. You want to just hold it? All right.
Thanks,
Tony, hold it.
You guys got it. Okay.
All right, good. So, thank you for joining us again. We were in this spot not too long ago, voicing our opposition to congestion pricing, and Josh and I continue to work vigorously, speaking with new members that have come in to ensure that we're building our base of support against this cash grab. On February 23rd, we met with the new Federal Highway Administrator, that was Administrator Batt, and we expressed to him our concerns with this program, but we also expressed with him our concerns that we believe the administration has subverted the National Environmental Policy Act, the NEPA process, by expediting an environmental assessment as opposed to conducting a more thorough environmental impact statement. We are still pushing for federal highways to require that the MTA conduct the environmental impact statement, and we believe that if the Federal Highway Administration does not require that it will open up the federal government to potential lawsuits for not complying with the NEPA process, which is the National Environmental Policy Act. We want to make sure that this program, which would be the first in the nation, is fully vetted. We want to make sure that the people of New York, New Jersey, and our surrounding communities, and all across America, because if it happens here in New York, we know it can happen potentially elsewhere. And we deserve to know all the ramifications of such a policy and such a congestion pricing scheme. We believe that it would have detrimental impact on surrounding neighborhoods outside of the congestion zone. We believe that the pollution and the traffic would simply be shifted. And we also believe that it would have a detrimental impact on the city of New York, who will see less people come to the city to utilize everything that our city has to offer, everything from entertainment to dining to just regular recreation. We believe that New York City will see less economic activity as a result. One of the things I want to point out as it relates to my community of Staten Island, congestion pricing, as I said, would shift vehicle traffic from higher income and more urbanized areas to lower incomes and more vulnerable communities like the one that I represent. The authors of the environmental assessment at the MTA conducted a street-level analysis of 102 different traffic intersections that are expected to have the largest changes in traffic due to congestion pricing. Do you know that not one of the screening monitors were placed on Staten Island? Approximately half of the screened intersections were in predominantly minority and low-income neighborhoods. That means Staten Island's North Shore should have also been included. And the fact that they didn't do this assessment in one of the boroughs of our city is a major problem. And it also leads me to believe that they will be vulnerable to citizens filing lawsuits against the federal government should they not require the full environmental impact statement. So we are here today to say that we are continuing the fight against congestion pricing. We're here to say that we've warned the Federal Highway Administrator that we believe the federal government will be vulnerable to a lawsuit if they don't comply with the full NEPA, which we believe would require a full assessment, the environmental impact statement. as opposed to this measly environmental assessment that they did do. And we're also here to say that we have started an anti-congestion pricing caucus in Congress, and we're starting that off with 4 members. It's Josh and myself as the co-chairs. But we also have Michael Lawler of New York, and we also have Tom Kane of New Jersey, and we believe we'll have other members joining soon as well. But we're starting off with 4 members, 2 from New York, 2 from New Jersey, and it is bipartisan. And so we're here to fight the fight and make sure that we defeat this congestion pricing cash grab, which is really unfair to the people that we represent. And we could talk more about other parts of the subway system and safety and all that shortly. I just wanted my colleague to be able to say a few words.
Thanks, Nicole. Thanks. It's good to see everyone. It's a nice, beautiful spring day. I'd rather be back in Jersey, of course, but it's good to be in New York City for a minute, home of the absurd congestion tax plan. By now, we know the facts, and you heard Nicole cover several issues. I'm going to add to a couple more just to keep it interesting. The MTA has been so woefully mismanaged that they're desperately looking anywhere, as we know, for cash to fill the gigantic hole they dug for themselves. Their target, hardworking commuters from New Jersey and New York. They plan to charge them $23 a day just to drive south of 60th Street here in New York. That's more than $5,000 a year, all of it going to the MTA. Not a cent will go to the PATH or Jersey Transit to actually help our state in any way. The best part, the MTA admits it will cause more congestion and lead to more pollution with their congestion tax plan. It's in all their filings. It could be the MTA's new slogan, riding us will give you higher taxes, more congestion, and plumes of smog. Maybe they should put that on their new bumper sticker. Sounds like a winner for a transit system that's running a $2.5 billion deficit, even after they received $15 billion in federal COVID emergency relief, on top of the billion they receive every year in federal support. Studies show they lost $500 million to fare skippers last year. The MTA is such a mismanaged agency, riddled with corruption, that a judge described it as, quote, an orgy of overtime fraud. That's why we're here today, to formally join forces with members of Congress on both sides of the aisle and both sides of the Hudson to fight back against the congestion tax and get to the bottom of MTA's legendary mismanagement. The new Bipartisan Congressional Anti-Congestion Tax Caucus will stand up for hard-working Jersey and New York families and drivers who will soon face the MTA's $23 a day cash grab. With the creation of our new caucus, and you heard the leaders announced today, we're now going to be circulating it to our colleagues to join as well. The start of our new action plan will be key to fighting congestion tax. First, as you saw on the poster, we need to make sure that all the effects of the congestion tax will have on the environment are studied and made public. We already know from MTA's own reporting that the congestion tax will send more trucks into northern New Jersey by the GW Bridge and into the outer boroughs to areas just outside the tolling zone, hurting lower-income families. The Bronx alone could face 700 more trucks every day, contributing to massive pollution and congestion. The MTA admitted that children in Bergen County near I-95 and the George Washington Bridge and in the Bronx will face increased air pollutants and toxins. The MTA has asked the Department of Transportation, as you heard Nicole say, to fast-track their approvals. That would be a huge mistake. We've all asked the DOT to demand more extensive studies on the environmental impact on the MTA's plan. That's why we had that conversation just recently. We also need to understand the impact on the Port Authority and their capital projects like the new bus station, the airports, and the aging bridges, tunnels, and ports. Second, we need to protect hardworking Jersey and New York families from having their pocketbooks drained, and we need to look out for small businesses here in the city who are already struggling. That's why there's been such an outcry of opposition from small businesses and chambers of commerce to taxi drivers to Uber drivers. Older folks, folks with disabilities, and those visiting doctors and hospitals here have no choice but to drive in the city because they are receiving life-saving care at hospitals like Beth Israel or NYU. And let me be clear, every scenario the MTA released will whack drivers with a new tax. Third and finally, there needs to be appropriate federal oversight and increased accountability of the MTA and their questionable uses of billions in federal funds they've received. As the old Wendy's ad said, where's the beef? My question for the MTA is, where did all the money go that we sent you? This is an extremely corrupt and mismanaged agency that we're dealing with. There are countless indictments and investigations into bid rigging and fraud for soliciting and accepting bribes from contractors. We already mentioned the outrageous fare skipping. It's time MTA leadership came before the House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure and gave Congress a full recounting under oath of the billions of federal dollars they received during COVID, not to mention the billions they receive every year. And to help with the oversight, as co-chairs of the Anti-Congestion Tax Caucus, Congresswoman Malliotakis and I, together, are introducing bipartisan legislation that will require the Office of Inspector General of the Department of Transportation to conduct a full audit of the MTA. We can't keep pouring dollars into MTA's endless black hole. Every nickel in the new congestion tax imposed on hardworking Jersey families and New York families, from nurses to taxi drivers to hospital patients, will go to New York's MTA, not a nickel to Jersey. I've noticed that the chairman of the MTA has started to lash out as the facts in their own reports have come to light, as people have started to really dig into their mismanagement of the MTA and into the harsh reality that their congestion tax plan will cause more traffic and more pollution. So I urge Mr. Lieber and the MTA to call quits on their cash-grabbing congestion tax scheme. Delaying it as they have won't make the facts any rosier, and it won't stop the bleeding of the MTA. They should fix the root problems at the MTA and deal with it themselves. Nicole and I, as co-chairs of the caucus, along with our colleagues, are happy to sit down with them and sit down with anyone, as we're always willing to make sure we help them solve their problems, but not at the expense of hard-working commuters. And we'll continue to encourage everyone who opposes the congestion tax to let your voices be heard. Contact the MTA. Call your local officials. Let them know how you feel. This fight is just beginning, and our new bipartisan congressional anti-congestion tax caucus is ready to fight. When we work together, there's nothing that can stop Jersey and New York. I mean, she's from Staten Island. You don't mess with her. I get it. We're a tough combination to beat. Look at how well we did and cooperated with the Port Authority for all these years. There's no reason we can't cooperate and work together with our two great states. God bless. Thanks so much.
Question for you, Chuck. Bill Murphy has said he's not happy with the current congestion pricing plan.
That's correct.
But if there were an exemption carved in so that New Jersey residents were not taxed twice, basically if you've already paid the GW toll, you don't have to pay it again, would you similarly be more amenable to this if some of the revenue went to PATH and NJ Transit?
Listen, I represent Jersey, right? My job is to make sure Jersey families, and I know the governor does as well, to make sure we don't whack them with additional fees and taxes. So we'll open, of course, I look at anything doesn't hurt Jersey, and that's good for the country. I got to see specifics of anything, but my position is really right now the same. This congestion tax is is literally an endless cash grab for the MTA, and I think the fact that they want to stick it to more people makes no sense to me.
And if I could add, likewise, I have a piece of legislation that I've introduced that would also protect the commuters of Staten Island from being double tolled. So they already pay, and they're the only borough that pays to connect to the rest of the city. And my legislation would protect them to say that they would receive a credit toward any congestion fee, which would be the value of the toll that they're already paying to cross over to Brooklyn. With that said, it's still not satisfactory to us. We want to see this thing dead. We want to make sure that we end congestion pricing because it is a cash grab at the absolute wrong time when people are struggling and they are trying to make ends meet. I think we need to work together to improve safety on our public transit system so more people feel more comfortable. If you are a waiter who gets off at work at 2 in the morning, if you're a nurse who has to be in at 5 a.m., do you feel comfortable riding the subway at that hour? I think that, we've added some police. We have to continue to do that and make sure people feel comfortable riding mass transit. But we also have to look at the options, right? Infrastructure that we supported should be going towards expanding some of those options to make it easier for people to commute. We're looking for a South Shore, East Shore ferry from Staten Island to Manhattan. That is something we've been pushing the city to do. Let's give people alternatives if we want them to get out of their cars.
Yes.
You came together today to talk about the caucus forming. What would you like to see join the caucus? You mentioned what we're going to fight. What does that entail?
Who we want to join the caucus? Well, obviously we're going to open it up. We're going to open it up to you heard the leaders today that are starting the caucus, and we're going to open it up to both delegations. I could see anyone who drives to New York to caring about this. We've heard from a lot of members already in New York and Jersey express their deep concerns. So we're going to open it up, and I think we're going to continue to make the case as we are today. Right,
And
Nicole?
I think the media should also reach out to some of the members that represent the outer boroughs, because I know that this is not a popular plan for the representatives, whether it's the city, state, or federal level, that represent the outer boroughs. And so, try to get them on record on how they feel about congestion pricing, because the reality is that maybe they're not saying anything, and if they're too quiet, that probably means that they're taking the side that we are, but maybe not ready to be public on it just yet. So,
What would a caucus do?
So our caucus, the caucuses basically, they come together, we have meetings, we strategize, we develop legislation. We already have a couple of pieces that we've introduced. One was, as Josh said, legislation that would require a federal audit, the Inspector General, the U.S. DOT, of all the federal funding that went to the MTA. And we're also going to be probably collectively pushing for hearings as well into how the MTA and other transit systems around the country have utilized federal COVID funds. But the idea behind the caucus is to get like-minded legislators to come together to meet and to discuss ways that we can work together to stop this. We will probably be continuing to rally support for a full and thorough environmental impact statement. We could potentially be talking about, meeting with organizations like AAA, for example, to come talk to us. They're also opposed, and how we can work together with them to stop the congestion pricing. So it's just about coming together with like-minded members to strategize for either legislation, rallies, or other public policy.
Think of it, just adding to what Nicole said, think of it as a task force, right, in Congress, right? And we call them caucuses in Congress, but right, it's like a task force that comes together around an issue or around a piece of legislation. And it's very common in Congress, but it shows strong force to be coming together. It's a comment period, so what they told us is they're getting, right, and they said they're getting like 20,000 comments.
They said that they understood our concerns, that they received 20,000 comments during the public comment period, and that they were taking everything into account as they work to make their decision on whether they're going to require a full and thorough EIS, or they're going to grant a FONSI, which all these acronyms here. The FONSI is considered a finding of no significant impact. I just don't see how they can possibly come to the conclusion that there is a FONSI, finding of no significant impact, when everything that we're pointing to is showing that there is an impact, including if you point to what occurred, in London with the shifting of traffic and the economic impact that it would have as well.
So the huge difference between where we are here, like to speak for Jersey, and London, is we right now don't have the mass transit capacity and reach. In a lot of parts, we've got mass transit deserts. In a lot of parts of northern New Jersey, which I represent, there are no buses, regular buses or trains. Lots of people commute from Sussex County, from parts of Bergen County, there is no mass transit. And we don't have the capacity to add more rail right now. We obviously, Nicole and I and others fought so hard to get the infrastructure bill passed. We'll hopefully give more resources to mass transit. Obviously, we'll build the Gateway train tunnel to add more capacity. But right now, we don't have the capacity for more mass transit. In fact, bus routes have been cut back significantly since COVID. There are fewer options to take. People have to drive. You go early in the morning, late at night. You're as Nicole said, you work hard. You're helping build buildings here. You're a laborer. You're a nurse. You're a restaurant worker. There are no options, right? You have to drive. So for a lot of people, there are no choices. London's very different. They have a much more in-depth transit system, mass transit system built out, the way it is out of, if you look outside of London Center. And there's been a lot of problems, actually, if you dig into London, getting beyond that, there's a lot more other issues that have come up since that's really hurt people.
To the Dr. Schwartz, if I may, I realize you don't run the MTA. They have portrayed, as you know, their fiscal condition as dire. They have a very ambitious capital plan. How would you fund the capital plan?
Yeah.
Would you raise fares? Would you raise tolls? What would you do?
Well, but see, this goes back to what was said when we passed the infrastructure bill. The governor came out and said we would not have to raise tolls or fares for 2 years. What happened that everything changed since then? I think the issue with the MTA, it is everyone knows how mismanaged and what a disaster it is. It's like a black hole. At what point will it be enough? I just think it'll never be enough. Because we were told when we passed the infrastructure bill that would prevent any further hikes or fares, and it was going to allow us to, expand transit options. It was going to do the capital projects that were needed. And now it seems that story has changed. So, I mean, it's more like, at what point will the MTA finally say that they received bailouts, they received $15 billion in federal money? Where did that money go? And the other issue is, like I said, if we want people, I truly believe that if we want to raise revenue, we should be doing it by making our city safe. We should be addressing the issues on public transit in terms of crime. More people will feel comfortable. We should not have a punitive approach. We should be incentivizing people to want to use mass transit, and the way you do that is by making it safe, making our city safe. Let's get our economy back on track. To do this at this time when this city is still struggling economically, I think is a very bad move, and it's going to further hurt our city.
But where would you find the money?
Well, what I'm trying to say is we've given them the money. We've said that there's money available through the Infrastructure Act, and now I don't know. Did they apply for it? Was it not enough? But the other issue is, look at the state budget. $225 billion is massive. I mean, why are they not? If they need money, then the state should be putting some money, but they should be doing it with reforms at the MTA. Let's not continue to hit the toll payer over the head. I mean, look, you can go through the line item by line item what the city and the state wants to spend money on. Maybe they should prioritize the transit system instead.
Any other questions? Good. Thanks, guys. Get warm. Hey, Nicole, thanks.
Hey, good job. What are you up to?
Thanks.
What are you up to? Stay in the city?
Excuse me.